Now, a few weeks ago, Elementor released a beta version that included the new Flexbox CSS model and, more importantly, the new container widget. Now, as part of the process of transitioning away from the existing way of working with rows and columns and intersections and so on, we need to have some way of converting existing designs, existing templates, over to the new container model. Well, the new beta version has been released, and as part of that, we've now got the ability to convert things over. So in this quick video, I just want to demonstrate and take a look how you do it and what kind of results we can expect to get from it. So let's take a quick look at what versions of Elementor I've got installed. Now, before we go any further, please take this as a major thing. Do not test this out on a live site. Don't install beta versions on a live site. Test these out on a site you don't care about, set up a development server, whatever you want to do, but not on a live site. You have been warned. Okay, so we're currently running 3.60 Dev 36 of Elementor, version 1.11 of Elementor Beta Developers Edition, and Elementor Pro 3.7 Dev 12. As long as you've got that or higher, you should see exactly the same as I'm seeing in this video. Okay, so with that being said, let's go ahead and just load in a template that's part of Elementor, just so we can use that as a sort of best practice. If we're using the tools that they've used to build these sort of pre-built ship templates, we should be starting off with what they would consider to be best practice using their tool. We'll edit with Elementor. We'll remove the title from the page just because we don't want that on there. And we're going to go ahead and use one of the templates. Now, the header and footer are just normal WordPress templates, so pay no attention to those. So let's go ahead and find something that I'm going to use as a starting point that I think is kind of detailed enough to have some things in it that may cause problems, but also, like I say, done by the development or the developers behind Elementor itself. Okay, so there's our layout. You'll notice that I've got the navigator over on the right-hand side, and I want to use that because I want to demonstrate a couple of things as we go through this. As you can see, though, there's quite a lot of different sections inside here, and we've got this sort of floating bar on the left-hand side. And for ease, I will remove that a little later because I think that might cause a few issues if we expand the hero section out. We can see what we've got inside there. We've got an inner section. We've got some columns. You know, a typical kind of layout for this hero section. So let's go ahead and select it. And now if we take a look on the left-hand side, under the layout section, you can see there's a new option at the top that says convert to container. So at the moment, you can see all the different options underneath are what you're used to working with those columns, rows, and inner sections and so on. But once we convert this to a container, all that will change over to the Flexbox model. So let's hit apply. So now we can see this is now duplicated everything. So what happens when you do this kind of conversion process? It will create a duplicate, one using a container, one being the original. So let's go ahead and remove the original one and just get rid of that. Now you can see the hero section that we've just converted now has a new icon to the left hand side of the name of this particular section, and that denotes the fact that you're now using the CSS Flex model container. So when you're looking at the navigator, you can very quickly and easily see what is using containers and what may be using the old way of working. And you can mix and match. Obviously, not necessarily the best way of doing it, but you can mix and match if you need to. Now let's take a look at this. You can see things have kind of gone a little bit squiffy. We've kind of lost the negative margin. The information is kind of like pushed right out at the top, and we kind of get that little floating panel is now sort of squished down at the bottom and full width. So for ease, let's just get rid of that little icon list thing. Is that it? There we go. So this is kind of what you would normally expect to see if you didn't have one, you're sort of like floating off with absolute positions and so on. It's not exactly working the way we want, but it's relatively easy to rectify a lot of this. If we take a look at now the container section on the left-hand side, you see all the old model has kind of gone to be replaced by all the CSS Flex model. So what we need to do is kind of rectify this by adjusting various different parts of it. So like with the container selected, for example, we can center things to make sure it's horizontally and vertically centered, those kinds of things. You know, we can select the different sections inside here. We can select the different rows, columns. And if we take a look over on the right-hand side, you can see we've got nested containers, but that does kind of remove a lot of the problems we had with having these inner sections where you've got a lot more divs. That's where your divception kind of thing comes from. So relatively easy to rectify a lot of this. We could kind of just make sure that everything is laid out the way we need. But in general, it's done a decent enough job of that. Like I say, a little bit of remedial work would tidy that up. Let's try another one. Let's try something like this, where we've got, again, multiple columns. If we open this up, you can see we've got columns inside there. Relatively simple. We've got a couple of inner sections as well that may cause it a few problems. So let's select the services. We'll convert this to a container again. You can see that duplicates it. So let's get rid of the original one. Just delete that from there. And there's our services. And as we can see, everything is in place. If we open that up, you can see we've got containers inside there. So now all our intersections have kind of gone. So that's not a bad job. Let's take a look at something that may potentially trip this up. So let's take a look at something like this where we've got this animation on scroll effect. You can see this block by here. So let's select it. Let's make sure we can see exactly what we're dealing with on the right hand side, the navigator. So this is the 3-step section. So again, if we open this up, we've got an intersection and columns and so on. So let's go ahead and test this out. Let's select it. Let's convert this to a container. And then let's get rid of the original one. So as you can see, things have worked out relatively okay. We can see that things have kind of pushed over to the left hand side. So we'd probably need to make sure that everything is aligned to the center, that everything is lined up the way we want it to be. There we go. We can quickly just adjust things on there. That's now in the center. You might need to adjust spacing and so on. But relatively easy. Seems to work pretty well. The animation effect is still there when we're scrolling up and down. So all in all, not too bad. There's going to be a few things that'll trip it up. And I think that's going to be, no matter when they release it, I still think there's going to be a case that we're going to find different scenarios where you've got different layers, especially if you've got lots of intersections and, you know, sort of absolute positioning and relative positioning and things. I think these are going to potentially trip it up. But as a starting point to speed the process up, if you want to convert over to the Flexbox model, at least this option is a good starting point. Needs a little bit of refinement, but on the whole, I think you could get by using it. The only downside is that we have to do this on a container by container level right now. There's no way of setting this up to do the entire page, to change everything on the entire page, unless I'm missing something. So if I am missing something, let me know in the comment section below. But I just wanted to show you how this option works, to show you what you can expect when this comes out, because apparently I don't think it's going to be too much longer before we see the container model actually being released. As always though, your feedback, your comments, your questions in the comment section below. That'll be much appreciated. All applicable links are in the description. My name is Paul C, this is WPTuts, and until next time, take care.